Thank you.
What are you doing to him?
We know now. Thank you very much.
Calm yourself down. Calm yourself down. Calm yourself down.
This is the treatment you can expect in the UK when standing up against the systemic abuse of innocent victims for having the decency and compassion to speak up against an industry responsible for unthinkable cruelty and rights violations, environmental destruction, and frustration of moral progression. In the UK, 90% of pigs murdered for their flesh are killed in barbaric CO2 gas chambers, where the carbon dioxide forms an acid on their eyes, nostrils, mouths, and lungs. Lowered into the dark metal chambers, the pigs suffocate whilst burning from the inside out, thrashing and screaming in absolute agony, desperate to escape the abject pain and terror. It takes up to 1.5 minutes for them to be rendered unconscious, and you can only imagine how long every second of this torture feels for these intelligent, sentient creatures whose only crime is being born into the wrong body. Cranswick plc is one of the largest producers of pig flesh in the UK, and despite many charities and organisations calling for a ban on the use of CO2 to kill animals, they continue to use these torture chambers because it's cost effective, and for soulless corporations like Cranswick, money comes first. On the 3rd of April 2024, Joey Carbstrong gained entry to Cranswick Slaughterhouse in Watton and, with a small team of activists, occupied the gas chambers until they were arrested by Norfolk Constabulary. This action took place after an exposé in which Joey and his team covertly recorded the horrors that take place at this site. I'll link Joey's exposé in the description and urge you to watch it to find out exactly what you're funding if you're not yet vegan. Cranswick's Watton site has also been the subject of irregular protests for many years, and the attending animal rights activists in Cranswick have a long-standing agreement in which the slaughter trucks would pull in and stop for several minutes. This allows protesters to document the animals, bear witness to their plight, and offer them a few moments of the love and compassion they've been denied throughout their short, wretched lives before they're violently murdered. The team that took part in Joey's occupation was independent of the regular protest come vigil. Joey strictly observed security culture, and rightly so, thus the organisers of the ongoing protest had no prior knowledge of the occupation and no part in its organisation or execution. Whether by coincidence or judicious timing on Joey's part, the regular protest took place the day after the occupation on the 4th of April. But despite being made aware that it had nothing to do with the regular protesters, management at Cranswick were furious that their horrific gassing of pigs, plus footage of the workers beating the terrified animals, had been secretly filmed and exposed to the public in national press, and in retaliation, they reneged on the agreement to stop the trucks. Frustrated by the futility of watching the trucks drive past, Jamie decided to exercise his right to be in the road as part of the legitimate aim of the lawful protest, a right that was bolstered by the landmark Ziegler case. Jamie's intention was simply to slow walk the approaching death truck to the entrance of the slaughterhouse, enabling other protesters to get footage of the pigs. In full view of the police, who were watching from one of their vans parked nearby, the driver, clearly exceeding the speed limit as he approached, deliberately drove into Jamie. But rather than challenging the truck driver for this obvious offence and reckless endangerment of life, award-winning cop Sergeant 334 Oliver Button charged over to Jamie, who was walking away from the truck, grabbed hold of his arm and, with the assistance of PCs 147 Leslie Norman Maguire and 1357 Roger Benton, aggressively tackled him onto the ground. In the process, they ripped Jamie's coat, snapped his car key, rendering it useless, and injured his hand and arm. Whilst activist Lucia remonstrated with the constables over their appalling violence towards Jamie, Maguire threatened to arrest her for public order. Yet, when a truck driver shouted that the protesters should be the ones forced into the gas chambers, he had nothing to say. And I think the truck driver had every right to say what he did, as I fully believe in freedom of speech, and if he wants to expose himself as an unhinged, unthinking, smooth brain that hates anyone who's against animal torture, let him. But as always, it's the double standards of these scum police that I object to. Inexcusably, it took more than 5 minutes of Jamie and other protesters repeatedly asking for the reason he was being detained for Maguire to caution and arrest Jamie, obviously because the stupid clowns had no idea what they were doing. To try and justify his pathetic, impulsive attack, Button ordered Maguire to arrest Jamie for a public order offence, getting his subordinate to do his dirty work. As you'll see from the footage I'll play in a moment, Button was clearly out of his depth, uncertain of his grounds and thinking on the spot. When Maguire cautioned Jam, the moron said, and I quote verbatim, "You're being arrested for obstructing the infrastructure of the Antisocial Behaviour Act. Talk about a cock-up." Oh, and he also failed to provide the necessity for arrest. The incompetence of these people is off the chart. They're so comprehensively thick, you'd think they're acting out a parody. I'll play some of the footage now and then cover the subsequent proceedings in which all three of the horrible constables told blatant and demonstrable lies to fit Jamie up.
Thank you.
What are you doing to him?
We know it now. Put your over.
Calm yourself down. Calm yourself down. Calm yourself down. Calm yourself down.
What did he calm on? He just assaulted me for no reason. He just assaulted me. Fucking assaulted me. Get that shit away from me. Get that shit away from me. Just assault me for no reason, you do.
You are fucking bullies. This is
Stop swearing, mate, please. Thank you.
What?
Fuck
Were
off.
you offended? Well, I can tell you that.
Why is he being arrested? What power is this under?
Except you. You run the right.
Jamie, ask what power is under.
What power are you arresting me for?
This is all on camera, guys.
Please, thank you.
Just getting badge numbers.
Fine, 147 for everyone who's interested, thank you.
Shame on you, you disgusting people.
Why are you arresting this man, officer? Why are you trying to arrest this man?
Jamie, what power is
Why are you arresting this man?
Why are you arresting me?
He has done nothing wrong.
No,
No, they have not.
Have you got your body cams on? Have you
Fuck
got your
off
body
me.
cams on? Okay.
Fucking weak old cunt.
Why are you arresting this man, officer?
Fuck off. You're the one that started
He
it. You
has
fucking
done
abuser.
nothing wrong. He has been in a public place, exercising his free will to speak.
What am I being arrested for, you twat? Tell
Why are you
me.
arresting him?
What am I being arrested for?
You do have to show
Don't
place
tell
to
me
this
to
murderer's
wait.
outfit to show that
How is he being arrested?
He don't even fucking know.
Don't tell him why he's being arrested.
You're a fucking
Why are
Nazi.
you
What
arresting
act
me?
are you
You're
arresting this man
You're a
under?
fucking Nazi. Don't grab your hand, you fucking
They have to tell him.
They have to tell him that.
They will, yes.
They haven't done. He's asked for
When he
several
starts
times.
talking civilly, I'll tell him.
No. Have they told you what act they're arresting you under? No.
No, they have not.
Jamie, they have not told you.
This one here assaulted me, this one.
Which, the one on top?
Yep.
Jam, you're going to see
Sergeant, you have
I
let
will.
down.
You're raising his head.
You're lucky I don't fucking headbutt you, you cunt.
They haven't.
You fucking assaulted me. Yes, you have. I'm defending myself.
How dare you arrest this man for voicing his opinion? How dare you arrest this man for crossing the road?
Why is he being arrested?
Read me a
What
caution,
act
you prick.
are you arresting this
Why are you
man
trying to
under?
block our view?
Sorry?
Why are you trying to block
I'm not trying to block
our
a view.
Who's that?
For his
Oh,
safety,
don't
I'm
worry,
talking
we
about...
see everything.
I have, he won't tell me. Why are you arresting
You're
me?
bullies.
He doesn't understand, he's right. He doesn't understand what act you are arresting him under, you've not made it clear. Why are you arresting this man?
You have to say why they're being arrested. You are going to get sued big time.
You are all
Right,
now
mate.
complicit in criminal behaviour. This man is not resisting arrest
Well done,
because
you
you have no
lot.
legitimate reason
Bunch
to
of
arrest
fucking
him.
Nazis. You're a Nazi, you're a Nazi. You're a Nazi, you're definitely a Nazi.
Why is he being arrested? You can't take him away unless you say
I was
why.
in the road for 10 seconds. was hit by the truck. They assaulted me.
This man was hit by a truck and now he's being arrested. The driver that told us that he would like to see us all dead has run over an activist. The driver has run over an activist and the police, instead of arresting the driver, are now arresting the activist. What members of the public is your police force?
What have you arrested me
Your
for?
local constabulary.
You can't tell him why you're arresting him.
Falsely arrest a man.
He's asked you civilly.
Assaulted
No
me.
reason to be arrested. They have not told him his rights.
This prick here, he arrested me, hasn't even told me what it's for. Fuck off, you guys are assaulting me.
What are you
You're
arrested
trying to
for?
kidnap me. For what reason?
Not trying to do that.
Yes, you
What
are.
act?
Just sign up for us, please.
What
What did I do wrong?
legislation? How are you arrested?
Tell me what I've been arrested
At the
for.
moment, you are complicit in kidnapping
Tell me what I've
and
been arrested
assault.
for, then I'll comply.
Well, but I would imagine it's public order offence. I wasn't
Public order, what have
You've
I done?
arrested a man in the road. She's trying to prevent him being run over, and you're telling her to move.
You're complicit, that's the problem.
Shame on you.
Can we get off the road,
Arresting
please?
officer.
Causing more of a public danger for anything, so...
Your colleague just assaulted me. Taking me to the
Shame,
ground.
shame,
Just
shame
because...
on the police.
What?
Shame on the police.
Shame, shame, shame on the police.
They'll put me coat under his head.
These people are complicit in an illegal arrest.
You alright, mate?
Oh, great. Another lawsuit.
John, who's your arresting officer?
You should be ashamed,
The one that's
absolutely.
fucked off.
Collar 147.
324,
collar
I believe.
1401.
Who is the arresting officer?
Collar
They haven't even told me what I've
1357.
done yet.
Get the man out of the road. What are you doing? Let this man on his feet and get him out of the road.
Oh my God, did you hear that? Did you hear that?
What we're doing, you're being arrested for obstructing infrastructure under the Anti-Social Behaviour Act.
I'm part of a protest, do you know that?
Oh, you stood in front of a lorry which is obstructed infrastructure.
Sorry,
That's what
sorry.
we arrest for. You don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence. Do not mention when questioned.
Is that a major obstruction, is it?
Anything that you do say may be given
Oi, idiot.
So,
334.
you are being filmed by us.
So
Yeah, and none of you have actually
you are
told
being
me that I'm
filmed,
fucking
officer,
being
by
filmed.
many
you
cameras,
haven't got any
and we
You
are
identify
witnesses
yourself, what
of
station
this
you brought
disgusting
from.
behaviour.
Right, are you going to stand up so we get
Shame on
over?
the
No, because
police.
this is unlawful.
Okay.
You're a fucking idiot. You do know human rights,
Shame on the
yeah?
police.
I've got one in the bag. I'm
Shame
going
on
to
the
get one.
police. Shame on the police. Shame on the police.
334.
Get the man out of danger.
Oi,
Yes,
Nazi
yes.
334. You're getting sued, you prick.
There is a truck going past as he's in the road.
This man is being held by the police in
No,
the
fuck me
road,
up.
on the floor,
Thanks
instead
for
of
that,
being
officers.
brought to safety.
Pathetic, what are you?
So what's he being arrested for?
Was being in the road for 5 seconds and getting hit by a truck.
Well, you four officers have created more of an obstruction than he did.
In the road.
How is this
So
right?
bad in court.
Watch out, he'll throw you to the ground, that was aggressive.
Explain what you've done.
Before telling us that he would like to see us all in the gas
You guys
chamber.
have been to a protest before.
Silly old man.
So you do know obstruction of the highway. That's
He would like to see us all dead.
Major infrastructure we can be
But yet, this innocent man is being arrested.
It's not a major disruption though, is it?
It's a road.
One truck for 5 seconds, getting hit by a truck, then getting assaulted by this cunt here. Fuck
What
off.
happened to your hand?
It's that twat there. 334, unlawful arrest. You're going to get sued down the line, mate. You're going to get a spank bottom.
Shame on you.
You're going to get a spank from your sergeant.
You had an opportunity here today.
It's funny, he's been
Show
chatting
us
all morning, this one,
compassion.
haven't you?
Being
I
in the
told
road
you
for
I could
10
see the hate in
seconds.
your eyes.
Fucking
You
disgusting.
have shown us the
anything to
opposite
say
here
now.
today.
Can we get off the road?
Jan, I've
You
got
have
your...
shown us
No.
that you are complicit in the murder.
If you have enough officers to do it safely.
There is a private citizen
not
directing
assisting you in
traffic
your unlawful
on
arrest.
the police.
What do you think
Oh,
I'm fucking resisting?
a
No one told me.
activist on the floor
What I
of
was
the
being
road.
arrested for. This prick just
Can you
comes
see
out of
this?
nowhere, assaults me
Look at this.
after I've been assaulted by a fucking truck.
There
You
is
serious?
a private
Just
security
can't make
guard
this shit up.
managing public highway
Fucking degenerate.
by laying a man
I don't want him
On the
searched,
floor.
I'll tell you that.
for getting run over.
He can fuck off.
he was run over by a man who said he would like to see us all killed in gas chambers.
Fuck me.
Ben, if you go down the bottom there,
Why don't you just put me in a body bag while you're at it?
obviously we're going to try and put some straps onto you so we can move
do the
you.
right thing,
Yeah,
officer.
it's so much safer with you
There
guys.
are hundreds of people watching you live now.
So you rest your I'm going to make sure you don't
See, like that. Should have asked 334 why he assaulted me for no reason. That's not how you arrest someone, just grab them from...
You are being complicit in this murder.
You're not getting up, are you?
Why are you holding the man down? He's cuffed. Get him up.
They're private police for Cranswick. You can't stand in front of a vehicle for 10
Let
fucking
the man
seconds.
off on his feet. You haven't been cuffed. What is he to do? Run away?
I expect someone will be joining
Austin,
you
will he
later
come
because
to
they're
his
stalling
feet
right now for more
compliantly?
police to
When
arrive.
you come to your feet compliantly.
You can sit and swivel, you prick.
No. Speak to me.
You can sit and swivel.
Would you mind doing that? Come to your feet, please.
You guys initiate this unlawful arrest, you can fucking finish it. I'm not assisting. I'm not helping.
Why have they arrested you, mate?
For being in the road for 10 seconds.
What act?
He just said obstruction.
What section? What act?
You're going to have to ask
Obstructing what?
334. Here's the one that initially assaulted me for being in the road, getting hit by a truck.
Sergeant, what act are
You're
you
getting
arresting him
sued, you
under?
prick.
Just go down now.
It's not how you treat
He's going to be
peaceful
alright. He won't.
activists.
This man is a pacifist.
This man is a pacifist. This man is here today to stand up for injustice. We thought that you would be on our side for that, officers.
Why aren't you policing them in there? They're the criminals.
It's okay.
Trying to do a good thing.
Sure, someone that stabs animals in the throats for a living.
All you're
is not
doing-
violent at all.
Is getting more outrage against the police by doing this act.
You're gonna keep filming.
This injustice.
The next three clips are from police body-worn camera footage. In the following, you'll see Maguire again threaten Lucia and other activists with arrest, this time for obstruction. He claims that the protesters being in the highway filming is causing a nuisance and a danger, but it's him and his dipshit colleagues who've caused the obstruction by detaining Jamie in the middle of the road. He goes on to say, "You're causing more of a public danger for anything." I mean, what the fuck does that even mean? He is thick as two short planks, this one. The clip also shows Button pulling an offence for which to arrest Jamie from his stinking ginger arse, and a more audible recording of Simpleton Maguire, once more struggling to do words, as he attempts to execute that arrest.
How are you arresting him? At the moment, you.
Right, can we get off the road, please? You're actually causing a nuisance and a danger.
This person is
Right,
okay.
you're causing a danger. If you don't get off,
You're the danger.
I will arrest you for obstruction. So please stand on the pavement. Thank you. And you, madam, please.
And you're telling
Thank you. Right, can we get off the road, please? You're causing more of a public danger than anything. So.
Shame on the police.
Shame on the police.
Yes.
Shame on the police. All complicit in an illegal arrest.
Chan, who's your arresting officer?
You should be ashamed, absolutely. Collar 147, collar 1401. Collar
What should we do? Shall we just get him in some wraps and get him in the van?
out of the road. What are you doing?
For the public order offence.
Let this man
Disrupting
speak and get him out of the road.
Obstructing infrastructure.
Oh my God!
Right.
Did you hear
Right, hello there. Now what we're doing, you're being arrested for obstructing the infrastructure under the Anti-Social Behaviour Act. So,
I'm part of a protest. You didn't know that.
and you stood in front of a lorry which has obstructed infrastructure. So that's what you're being arrested for. You don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention, when questioned, something which you later rely on in court. Anything that you do say may be given in evidence.
Idiot.
So you are being filmed by us.
Yeah, and none of you have actually told me that I'm fucking being filmed.
Well, you haven't got any rap. Not.
In the next clip, you hear activists raise offences committed by animal abusers, whilst the filth are more concerned with making more unlawful threats of arrest to protesters and subjecting Jamie to the further indignity and violation of fast-strapping his legs. Finally, it occurs to the Keystone cops to move Jamie out of the road. To everyone else's amusement and incredulity, the nutjobs then feign concern for Jamie's safety, the man they've just attacked and pinned onto what they describe as a busy road.
Then screamed out the window that he would like to see all of us burn alive in gas chambers. And instead of arresting the man who hit the activist, the man who threatened our lives, you are arresting the pacifist. You should be ashamed.
That is it.
Sure, that's gonna.
I don't think that's gonna.
No, we're not gonna. So for your safety, we just need to move you onto the pavement, right? Because you're literally in the middle of your.
Maybe don't tackle someone to the ground.
I will hold this jacket so that your head doesn't come to any injury. We're just as careful as we can. Just try and.
Right.
I know you're doing your job, but if they were doing the Holocaust,
Right, we're not going.
well, no, this is a Holocaust of animals. Okay.
At the moment, so I'm more concerned with this gentleman's safety than your argument, so we'll deal with him with that.
I don't know.
Excuse me, can we go away, please? I've told you once.
I'm checking on him.
You will get arrested for obstruction.
Obstruction.
Thank you.
You guys love that shit, don't you?
You never care, do you? You knock people over, you injure them, assault them, and you don't even check their medical health before you drag them off into a van.
We have a duty of care for people we assault and tackle to the ground without telling them or explaining the fucking grounds until you've had a chance to bring up some shit 5 minutes later. Well done.
Why are you arresting this man?
They don't even know.
Shame on you, you're disgusting.
Thank you.
Have you had words with the driver for actually hitting someone with a vehicle?
Why don't you arrest
They're
the driver?
They're neighbours.
One of your colleagues is going to give us the details of the vehicle.
Enablers, yeah.
He's got it on his camera.
Fantastic.
He's going to supply that to us.
In the final clip, Jamie, for some reason not inclined to assist with his kidnap and false imprisonment, is carried to the police van where he's taken to Wymondham Pick and detained for upwards of 6 hours.
Right. You can stand up for us, please, sir.
Politely go fuck yourself.
Okay, so we'll have to obviously forcibly put you in the van.
Well, you've forcibly done everything else, so why don't you crack on?
Okay.
Finish it off. I'm not going to assist you in your unlawful arrest, am I? What sense does that fucking make?
Shame on you!
Off the back of this farcical incident, Jam was falsely charged with obstruction of the highway and resist PC. At the time of his plea hearing, Jam and I were no longer living in Norfolk. Residing in Sussex, Jam, who for various reasons had to self-rep at this stage, requested to appear via CVP rather than make the 8-hour round trip for a 5 to 10 minute hearing to do nothing more than enter his plea. But without any justification whatsoever, this request was denied. Outrageously, when Jam attended the plea hearing that he was forced to attend in person, Judge Sandeep Pankania was appearing via video link from the comfort of his home. Judge Pankania turned out to be an arrogant, hostile Nazi of a man who clearly became a judge to slake a pathological desire to wield power over others. He disdainfully and incorrectly assumed that Jamie didn't have a job and exploited his lack of legal representation to take the unorthodox measure of imposing a more restrictive bail condition than the one applied by the police, which was simply to not attend Wotton. Noting that Jam had another pending obstruction of the highway charge in relation to his action at the Grand National, Pankania ordered that Jamie couldn't attend any protest involving 2 or more people. When Jam exercised his right to challenge the condition, pointing out that it was draconian and a total overreach, Tyrant Pankania said words to the effect that if he wanted to argue about it, he would put him on remand. Jamie has a greater sense of fairness and integrity than this bastard judge could ever begin to apprehend, and it makes a mockery of the justice system that someone like Pankania, with a chip on his shoulder, is allowed to expunge his complexes and gratify his ego by fucking with the lives of those he so wrongly perceives as being beneath him. Bail conditions have to be necessary, reasonable, proportionate and enforceable. And given removing his right to protest entirely is none of those things, and the condition was attached to false and malicious charges, Jamie completely disregarded Pankania's undeserved authority and unlawful bail condition, and continued to take action for animals unfazed. Jam's trial for obstruction of the highway and resist PC took place at Norwich Magistrates Court on the 30th of January 2025, with District Judge Julia Moffat presiding. She appeared to take a dim view of the prosecution throughout, and when the prosecutor opened his case and it was established that Jam had been in the road for between 11 and 16 seconds maximum, she remarked, "Are we really having a trial over 16 seconds?" The first prosecution witness was Sergeant 334 Oliver Button, the cowardly grub who grabbed hold of Jamie for no valid reason and, along with his friends of course, tackled him to the ground. Disturbingly, Button won an award in the most outstanding police category at the National Armed Forces and Emergency Services event in 2024, after his unlawful attack on Jamie and all the lies he told to cover it up. It just goes to show how incredibly low the bar is set in policing. Apparently Button's 2 sons, and no doubt his wife Kerry, think he's a superhero who goes out to catch baddies, when in actual fact he's a weak-minded goon with no ability to question the status quo, who picks on those challenging the real baddies in society. Button's family must be so proud seeing footage of him acting out his warped vision of heroism by attacking a peaceful man who was standing up for innocent victims of the worst imaginable abuse. What a gallant and honourable man. Button has strong links to the farming community and comes from a family of system simps, royalists and ignorant plebs who worship their masters without any concept of how enslaved they are. I've heard that Button's younger brother Harry is a copper, and this cornball here is Ollie's brother-in-law, Justin Johnson, also part of the Thin Blue Line cult. Justin likes to kill unsuspecting animals and drink toilet water for fun, and these photos are truly emblematic of the kind of person who chooses to join the police force. Button's now hidden/deleted Facebook account under the name of Ol Butinsky and his more formal and still active account under his legal name are both shrines to all things king and country. He's a true authoritarian, brainwashed by a system that serves no one but the elite. Both under oath and in his MG11 statement about the alleged obstruction at Cranswick, which importantly Button wrote the same day, meaning it was all very fresh in his mind, he told numerous and obvious lies, yet another glaring reflection of his poor thinking skills and lack of principles. In his statement, Button says, "I stepped out of the police vehicle that I was in, as opposed to the one he wasn't in, and walked over to the road. I told everyone to get out of the road. After my request, all persons cleared the road except Carter. He looked directly at me, leaning on the grille of the lorry, and refused to move. I took hold of his left arm to gently guide him to the safety of the pavement." Just unbelievable. He goes on to say, "At this point, another officer joined me, and I told Carter that he was to be arrested." Again, absolute lies. Jamie wasn't told he was going to be arrested for over 5 minutes, long after he'd been tackled to the ground and dogpiled without any explanation. Button says he then heard Maguire arrest Carter for a public order offence, disingenuously neglecting to mention that he ordered Maguire to make the arrest, obviously trying to shirk responsibility and happy to throw his subordinate under the bus in the process. What a slimy, weak little coward of a man. Throughout his statement, Button attempted to portray himself as a hero whose actions were motivated by concern for Jamie's welfare, yet his crude attempts at misrepresenting the situation are embarrassingly transparent. Why would he only go for Jamie and not any of the other protesters who were, contrary to his claims, also in the road? If he was concerned about Jamie's safety, why didn't he try to have a conversation with him rather than immediately using aggressive force? Why did he risk, and indeed cause, injury to Jamie by violently taking him to the ground? Why did he do this on a road that he describes as very busy with large vehicles passing? If his concern was white knighting Jamie and getting him to the safety of the pavement, why pin him down on the very road he claims he was trying to remove him from? Button also said in his statement that he broke his hand during the incident, and he had the audacity to blame this on Jamie rather than his own idiotic power trip. He claims that he went to hospital for an X-ray which confirmed a fracture to the 5th metacarpal of his right hand. He says this limited his grip strength and caused him pain for 2 weeks, and whilst I sincerely hope this is true, I would wager he either broke his hand in an unrelated incident or is making it up. He claims the fracture occurred when he took Jamie to the ground and his hand went underneath him, yet throughout the footage Button can be seen using his right hand robustly and unimpeded, and he makes no mention of any issue. Everyone knows the police are a bunch of wet wipes, and if he'd broken his hand he'd have been crying big salty tears and on the phone to his mummy Lindsay, asking her to come and kiss it better. At the trial, Button was the first prosecution witness, and his smug, conceited attitude couldn't hide his obvious nerves. His blink rate was through the roof, he kept poking his tongue out like a reptilian, and behind his back he was wringing his sweaty hands. Classic signs of stress. Adding that he couldn't remember instructing Maguire to arrest Jamie, he repeated most of the lies in his statements and tangled himself up in a web of contradictions. At one point he said that he never meant to take Jamie to the ground and that Jamie fell over, and then in the very next sentence he said that he attempted a straight armbar takedown. When asked why it took more than 5 minutes to arrest Jamie after detaining him, Button blamed the abuse levelled at him by other protesters, the noise from a loudspeaker, and the fact that his hand hurt. Absolutely pathetic. There was ample opportunity to arrest Jamie and provide grounds. Words were being exchanged between both parties which were perfectly audible. In regard to why Jamie was the only one arrested, Button said because he was the only one being shunted down the road by the lorry. Yet more Button bollocks. Firstly, if a person is deliberately driving a HGV into someone, it should be them being arrested, not the victim. And secondly, that didn't even happen. The lorry made contact with Jamie once, Jamie walked away, and Button came and grabbed him for no reason other than a cringeworthy desire to assert himself in a way he wouldn't fucking dare dream of if not tooled up in uniform and backed up by other Nazis. The judge asked Button if he was aware of the 5-step appeal, to which he replied in the affirmative, but claimed that he didn't think it safe to carry out, as if this took place on the M25, with brave Oliver Button leaping in front of fast-moving traffic to drag Jamie to safety with milliseconds to spare, rather than on a relatively quiet road in front of a stopped lorry which Jamie was walking away from. During cross-examination, our brilliant barrister Maria tried to establish that Button knew Jamie was attending Cranswick as part of the protest, and that everyone there protesting was doing so for the same purpose. But even when asked if he really thought it was likely that different groups of people turned up to the same place on the same day to protest for different reasons, Button still couldn't bring himself to concede the point, making himself sound even more pitiful. He went on to state that he wasn't aware that protesters have the right to protest in the highway, nor that should an arrest be carried out regardless of that right, it's protocol to make the arrest before removing them from the road. I don't think anyone in the courtroom was surprised to learn that Button, part of the Safer Neighbourhood team at Thetford Police Station, had never policed a protest before. He also let slip that he and the other knuckle draggers had been discussing potential protest offences they could use to arrest before even arriving at Cranswick, well and truly on the side of those who torture sweet, innocent animals for a living. I've no doubt they would have defended the gas chambers used in World War II with as much vim and sickening determination. Next to testify was Jamie's arresting officer, PC 147 Leslie Norman Maguire, also of Thetford Police Station. Comedy gold, he was like something out of Hot Fuzz. It took a lot of restraint to hold back my laughter, and I had to avoid looking at others in the public gallery as I knew it would set all of us off. You'd really need to have heard him to appreciate just how dim this man is. Definitely hired for diversity, he sounded like a malfunctioning robot that could barely string together a coherent sentence. To the very first question he was asked about events at Cranswick, he requested to look at his statement. In my experience, most judges allow police witnesses to answer by reading from their statements word for word, which they're not supposed to do, but commendably, Judge Moffat told him to recall from memory. In this instance, it was probably of benefit to Maguire, given his statement, just like bullshit Buttons, was full of lies. In his MG11, Maguire claimed that when he and other constables approached and gave warnings to protesters to get out of the road, Jamie was the only one who refused to move, which again, the footage proves is a lie. Not only were Jamie and the others not asked to move, but Jamie was already moving of his own volition. Maguire claimed that Jamie was resisting Button's attempts to move him, which is also untrue. Button didn't make any attempts to move him out of the road, rather he pulled him down onto it. When giving evidence in court, Maguire further exposed Button's lies by stating that the protest was peaceful, whilst Button had said otherwise. Maguire also admitted that because the protesters were peaceful, officers didn't engage with them prior to the assault on Jamie, instead sitting in the van watching, whereas Button said the police had previously engaged with protesters that morning. When Maguire was asked to explain the delay in arresting Jamie, he claimed it was because there were lots of other people around and he was doing crowd control. Another demonstrable lie. In the footage, he can be heard saying, "I don't need to tell him because I've not arrested him," which shows that he didn't arrest Jamie not because it was impractical to do so, but because he had no idea what was going on. Rather, he saw Button attack Jamie and mindlessly joined in. When asked if he took Jamie's right to protest into account before arresting him, Maguire replied, "I was aware of it, but more concerned about his right to life," which came across as bizarrely dramatic and insincere. It was patently obvious there was no threat to Jamie's life at the point that he was apprehended, and if the police perceived otherwise, they should have arrested the person posing that threat, i.e. the lorry driver, not Jamie, who was assaulted by him. Judge Moffat asked Maguire at what point he formed the intention to arrest Jamie, to which he responded, "When Sergeant Button told me to," which means he was lying when he excused the 5-minute delay with his crowd controlling, because based on this answer, he didn't have any intention to arrest Jamie prior to being instructed to. The last prosecution witness was PC 1357 Roger Benton of Dereham Police Station. In his statement, he claimed that Jamie refused to get out of the road and was given many opportunities to do so. Well, it was a matter of seconds between Stormin Norman leaving his van and taking hold of Jamie, so it's completely implausible that he gave him many opportunities. You can plainly see in the footage that there was no conversation, rather Button simply charged over to Jamie, grabbed hold of him and escalated the situation in true police fashion. Just like the other dirty liars, coincidentally, Benton said in his statement that the other protesters moved when asked, but as I think we've established by now, they were in the road before, during and after Jamie was assaulted by Button. He also claimed that Maguire provided the necessity for arrest, which again the footage shows is untrue. It beggars belief that police will tell numerous lies, all of which can be so easily proved as such, often with their own body-worn camera footage. Benton had at least a modicum of sense in keeping his testimony brief when under oath, and it seemed he couldn't remember quite a lot or gave vague answers to avoid being caught in a lie. When not giving evidence, the constables sat outside the courtroom laughing like inane teenagers, smirking every time we walked past, but I doubt they're feeling quite so smug now. Halfway through Maguire's evidence, we adjourned for lunch, and still under oath, he was warned by the judge not to discuss his evidence. Before going for food, we had a quick brief with Maria in a side room, and peeping out of the door, I could see Button and Benton sat opposite Maguire, who was leaning over and talking to them. When I opened the door and looked over, making it clear I knew exactly what they were up to, Maguire leapt back in his seat, looking guilty as sin. Whilst I can't prove it, I don't doubt for a second they were discussing the evidence and examination throughout the day, believing themselves to be above the law that they signed up to enforce. Despite having no need to remain at the court after giving evidence, rather than returning to their duties, they each sat outside the courtroom long after the prosecution case had concluded, in fact, staying until the end of the day. So whilst the police bleat on about being at breaking point, overworked and understaffed, these cretins sat around for hours doing absolutely nothing whilst taking money from the hard-working taxpayer. In the afternoon, Jamie gave evidence in his defence, and unlike the vile coppers, he came across as genuine, decent, and with more strength of character than those three parasites combined. He didn't have to think about his answers, and he didn't trip himself up, because every word he said was the truth. We felt pretty confident about the verdict, but I believe Judge Moffat wanted to cover the points of law and provide solid, legal-based reasoning for her ruling, and so she scheduled another hearing for the 6th of February, with Jamie to appear via CVP. It would appear that Judge Julia Moffat saw right through the police's lies, as she found Jamie not guilty on both counts. Of the willful obstruction of the highway charge, Judge Moffat said she didn't even need to consider Ziegler as a defence because Jam's actions were de minimis, which means too minimal to be of legal significance. She also stated that the prosecution failed to prove that Jam's actions amounted to a disproportionate infraction on the rights of others, and that to convict him would have been a disproportionate interference with his own right to protest. Of the resist PC charge, she ruled that Sergeant Oliver Button's actions amounted to an assault against Jamie and that he acted outside of the lawful execution of his duty. She went on to say that at the time Button grabbed hold of him, Jamie was no longer in danger and was walking away from the lorry whilst other people stood peacefully in the road. Jamie was not violent and was exercising his lawful right to protest. She said that Button's contact and hold of Jamie was not appropriate And had he been trained in protest policing, he would have engaged with Jamie and none of this would have happened. And of course, none of this should have happened, including the subsequent trial. The CPS is experiencing a significant backlog of cases, and without substantial reforms, the number of outstanding cases is set to reach 100,000. But while legitimate trials with victims awaiting justice are being severely delayed and even discontinued, the CPS chose to waste valuable court time and public funds on this blatantly false and malicious prosecution. Jam and I are lucky to have a fantastic solicitor, Jane, who's passionate about her work in preserving what few civil liberties we have left. Before Jam's trial, she made written representations to the CPS, tearing their case apart, meticulously highlighting every single evidential and legal difficulty the prosecution faced, requesting that they discontinue the case. So how can it be that a CPS lawyer read those representations, watched the available footage, compared it with the constable's fictitious accounts, and decided to proceed with the charges? The only answer that makes sense is corruption, and this isn't a one-off. Anyone who's followed my channel for a while will know that against me, Jamie, and other Norfolk activists, the CPS has authorised and pursued dozens of charges, every bit as baseless, vengeful, and politically motivated as this one. I fully intend to find out which corrupt, bought-off bastards are behind this, with subject access and freedom of information requests, because these scumbags are every bit as bent as the police that they're in cahoots with. And I won't give up until we achieve a full public inquiry into the years of incredible, shameless systemic persecution and abuse of authority that we faced. In regard to the police, Jamie has since instructed DPP Law to pursue a civil case against Norfolk Constabulary, and a pre-action letter is currently being finalised. Jamie would also like to privately prosecute Button, but is aware this is a difficult and costly endeavour. If anyone familiar with the process can help in any way, please drop a comment below. Otherwise, I hope the massive dent to the ego and once glowing reputation of this award-winning waste of skin will be enough to discourage him from playing Billy Big Bollocks next time he fancies himself as Rambo, and help him stay in his lane.